At last, 40 years in the waiting, 3 years in the making. The Jazz Heritage Center is San Francisco's only permanent cultural and educational complex dedicated to jazz. And we are hosting our first major exhibition, Harlem of the West Revisited, which is now in the newly appointed Corette Heritage Lobby and the Jazz Heritage Center's Lush Life Gallery. The Jazz Heritage Center is located within the new Fillmore Heritage Center in the heart of the historic Fillmore Jazz Preservation District. And let's hear it for Eddie Durant, true Jazz Heritage pioneer.
The program is as such. We'll have a ceremony in the lobby at 2 o'clock, have some remarks, cut a ribbon to commemorate the Corette Heritage Lobby, have some more remarks, and then we will adjourn into this area for a reception with a little taste. So please join me now in the lobby.
Right now I'd like to bring up Louis Watts or Elizabeth Pepin to speak a little bit about this exciting exhibit which is surrounding us. Harlem of the West Revisited, and it's home where it belongs.
Louis Watts, and I'm one of the co-authors of Harlem of the West, the San Francisco Fillmore Jazz era, which, and we're sitting in the Fillmore where all of that took place. So the exhibit that accompanied the book has just opened at the Lush Life Gallery and the new Corette Gallery, which is in the lobby of Yoshi's, and it was really exciting and important for us that this work come right back to where it took place. Well, right where we're standing was like an empty lot for 40 years. It was a lot of there were sort of some of the best architecture in San Francisco, a lot of Victorians, and they were all torn down by the Redevelopment Agency, and a lot of people were displaced, and they were all put on a list, and from that list, I think one family resettled back in the Fillmore. So this history has kind of disappeared, and when I discovered a cache of photographs, I was started to show them to people and meet people that were in them, and then met other photographers and people who had collections. So that's sort of how the book came together. And Elizabeth, my co-author, worked for Bill Graham, and she knew had a map of all the where all the jazz clubs were. At one time there were like 8 to 10 clubs that had music every night, and we heard stories that this was like this incredible time because people were working in the shipyards, they had money, they'd come from the South, and the Depression had ended. So the reason this was called the Harlem of the West was that this was the old Japantown, and there was already a lot, sort of the infrastructure for a lot of the clubs and black-owned hotels and restaurants and churches. So there was sort of an instant urban community, and that's sort of where the name came.
My father used to gig at night. He worked in the daytime. He worked two jobs to maintain his family. And a lot of times I would come home and I'd hear a lot of loud noise, a lot of laughter, and I'd come in the house and it'd be Dizzy Gillespie, some other musicians that played with Duke or Count Basie, because in those days, in the 50s, musicians, they visited each other. They couldn't go to the big hotels downtown, so we brought them in, and my mother fed them, and they talked and had fun and enjoyed themselves. And that was part of my life as a son of Eddie Alley. Yeah, Eddie Alley and Vernon Alley. Both were musicians. Well, my Uncle Vernon, he played with Duke and Count, and he went on the road for a short period of time, but then he decided that he'd rather be local, like my father. My father had a family, that's why he had to remain local. But my uncle, they wanted him to go on the road with Count and Duke, but he stayed local with the musicians in town and made a good living in the Bay Area, and was well known and well respected all over.
Without further ado, we're so happy and blessed to have with us the mayor.
You know, David, I started to look around, and with all the people you photographed during the time that we've been here, I must tell you that I think I'm probably the oldest here.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not. Frank
I'm
Jackson's
75,
here.
I'm 74 and a half years old. I'm
Frank
moving right
Jackson's
along.
here.
You might say that I'm a son of the Fillmore. I lived up on Sutter Street at public housing projects, and my indication of San Francisco, commercially speaking, was pretty much Fillmore Street between Bush and Fulton. In that walkabout, there was everything you could ever want. The Uptown Theater was around the corner on Sutter and Steiner. You had the Temple Theater, which you could go see very old movies for inexpensively. You could walk on down and you'd catch the Ellis Theater, which was further down this way. And then, of course, when you got to be old enough, you could hit the clubs, and there were one club after another. There was the Long Bar, the Big Glass. Oh, there was something for everybody. The Manor Plaza Hotel, the Booker T. Washington Hotel with that good food joint in it. Gilmore's, which was around the corner. Virginia Hickory Pit. And of course, all of the barbecue joints that were on this street. Plus, there were some fabulous clothing stores here on Fillmore Street. Pressless, right up the street here, near Gerry. And of course, I eventually got a job. I actually worked at the shoe store, the Florsheim shoe store on Fillmore Street. This street really had so much character to it. There were at least 2 or 3 banks, all right here on Fillmore Street. Honorado's Fish Market was the #1 place all San Franciscans came for fish. And then you add the nightlife to it, and you had a viable, wonderful community was surrounded by all these fabulous old Victorians. It was really a very special place.
I want you to hear a few words from Michael Johnson now, because he's the man with the plan. Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson.
We're standing on the shoulders of a lot of great folks who helped make the Fillmore district of Harlem of the West. What we wanted to do with this complex is really create a destination, entertainment, and residential complex that everyone here in the community would be proud of and participate in. And the essence of it with the Jazz Heritage Center is to provide educational opportunities and awareness of the history of the film.
Now if I could bring up Abraham Severe from the Bread Foundation, Michael, and a few others, we would like to cut the vines that represent the caution sign in the Fillmore and officially inaugurate the correct heritage lobby. Abraham, would you step forward?
Adam, would you come forward and help us cut the tape as well, since you've done so much?